Hey guys, it's Godbars here, the self-proclaimed hip-hop historian, and this is the 201st episode of my series where I grab a vinyl from my collection, talk about why I love it, what influence it has, and what its place is in the grand scheme of hip-hop. So starting off the 200s, we have a fresh new instrumental to begin and close out each video, as well as a new set of 2000s LPs to dive into. And what better place to start than the absolute cream of the crop when it comes to post-90s Southern hip-hop music? A Piece of Strange by Cunninglynguists. These guys have had a long and winding career representing both Atlanta, Georgia and Lexington, Kentucky, with a couple of roster changes over the years, but the original two members were Deacon the Villain and No. In 2001, they released their debut LP, Will Rap for Food, and then in 2003, Mr. SOS joined the group as their third member, though he would only end up sticking around for one LP, which was their sophomore project, Southern Underground, before making an amicable split from the other two. However, instead of going back to their tried and true formula as a duo, they opted to replace Mr. SOS with a new third member, which was fellow Kentucky rapper Naughty. This rounded out the crew perfectly, and while they've gone on to have a pretty inspiring and consistent discography even after this magnum opus we're talking about today, it's pretty hard to up your game when your third album is the type of masterpiece that 2006's A Piece of Strange is. A lot of different factors come together which make this one of the most unique and acclaimed projects in the last 20 years, both critically and by fans all over. Some of these qualities have resulted in cunning linguists being compared and likened to artists from the legendary Dungeon family, like Outkast or Goody Mob, with one of the main comparisons being how all three of those southern acts have a tendency for socially conscious and aware content that never actually abandons the dirty South energy that godfathers of Southern hip-hop like UGK or Ghetto Boys helped pioneer. However, even with all the similarities they share and the clear reverence they hold for their OGs, these three really took not just Southern hip-hop in a new and exciting direction, but post-90s rap music in general. The two original members met at some Dungeon Family related event back in the day, and they actually toured with Bun B of UGK and also received a pretty notable boost in popularity during these early days, as they also toured with a number of more contemporary big names like Kanye West, Pharrell Williams, or even Depeche Mode. This is definitely one of those albums that creates a specific and borderline hard to describe aesthetic for me, but I would say the cover art is a pretty good representation of the auditory journey that you're signing up for with A Piece of Strange, as it fittingly shows a woman that I can only assume to be some iteration of Eve, who's holding her iconic red apple as if to say, hey, come take a bite of this cool-ass fucking tasty red apple. This kind of sets up the album's concept, which heavily plays with themes of sin, faith, trauma, and darkness, but there's plenty of moments that represent light and beauty, making the plot of this album sort of reminiscent of Dante's Inferno. But I hesitate to say that because while it's slightly off topic, I cannot stand how people pretend something is super deep or designed with the story of Dante specifically in mind just because it'll share some parallels with it. It's kind of how conspiracy theorists think, where all they see are the connections between two pieces of source material, and then there's no debate to them because they think, but these things can't possibly be coincidence. However, if you're someone who genuinely thinks that, I challenge you to go find me 10 or even 5 books, movies, or TV shows, basically anything with any semblance of storytelling and a plot, that doesn't share at least some similarities with Dante's Inferno. But back to the timeless LP at hand, I'm not 100% sure about this because it's probably more regional slang, but I feel pretty confident in saying the title is a double entendre, where on one hand there's the more obvious piece of strange fruit angle that the album art runs with, but I also believe the term a piece of strange is a phrase I've heard in reference to sex. But make no mistake, there really aren't many moments throughout this LP that branch over to overtly sexual talk, and that remains true with violence, drug use, and pretty much any of the braggadocious elements that proliferate the genre. especially when this album was being released in the mid 2000s. That isn't to say there's anything wrong with that. In fact, 2006 was a pretty prolific year for hip hop, with game changing releases like Lupe Fiasco's Food and Liquor, Ghostface Killa's Fish Scale, Hell Hath No Fury by Clips, and of course Jay Dilla's Donuts. But despite all the ground covered across that range of classics, I think A Piece of Strange touches on a wider assortment of topics than any of them, ranging from old-fashioned parents and people in general who don't seem to want the world to progress and move forward, all the way to songs where marijuana, or Mary Jane in this case, is written about as if it's a actual woman that they're trying to seduce. And while that idea has been played with over the years by a number of artists, you could make a good argument for this being one of the more well executed and cleverly penned examples. But on here, all three members showed that they could stick to a specific topic or theme, and everyone seemed to be especially on the same page lyrically, which I'm sure was largely made possible through the stellar instrumentals handled by rapper-producer No. This dude has been killing it this last decade as well through work with artists like Sadistic, but it was his time in Cunninglynguists alongside Deacon the Villain as a founding member, where he proved himself as one of the utmost talents in the game for my money. He completely handled all the production on A Piece of Strange, which is chock full of lush, rich, and colorful beats, and while he isn't present on the mic quite as much as the other two MCs, he still makes his fair share of lyrical contributions, with one of my favorites being on the highly conceptual track Brain Cell. I actually wanted to share at least a couple lines from each respective member on this track, starting with Deacon, who smashes it out of the park right away, rapping, "You was manifested in an egg, developed in a womb, born out of a moon belly, first day of doom, crying out like you want to be put back in there, maybe later in an incubator for more care. Alone, get to your home in your crib set, put behind bars, and you ain't even lived yet. On through the playpens, when will this fate end? Parents can't make rent, money from the safe spent." Then we get No, who gives us some gems, like, "It's back to the block and they calling you square. Try to get the label off, but you're glued to the cable box. Closed caption, clothes and fashion, so attractive as you lay on a box spring and old mattress. Choices blocked off, childhood gone, just future cubicles and retirement homes. But you can't see it happening, live savagely, only thing you put passion in is zigzag packaging. Swallow Oxycontins to find solace, you need a fix so you hit some blockhead for his wallet. But your gun jams and the cops come to take ya, now that bullet ain't the only thing caught up in a chamber." I'm kind of running out of time, so the section I'm going to share from Naughty's verse is a little bit shorter than the others, but it's definitely not for a lack of quality considering we get killer lines like, "From a cellular phone to a cell on a phone, or trapped in confession, seeking blessing, trying to atone. With no more casual pounds with the hand on the clock, now locked in city block, working Lucifer's lot. Down to box for success, is that truth or is it not? In your room, coping with stress, smoking cools from that box." There may be only a small handful of featured guest appearances on here, but they sure do pack a punch with titans of the game like Immortal Technique, CeeLo Green, Tim Means, and Club Dub. But the guest appearance that has always really stood out to me on A Piece of Strange is without a doubt from Tone Deaf, as he gives us arguably the most personal, honest, and deeply constructive set of verses in modern hip-hop, by penning an introspective back and forth that sees Deacon the Villain taking the role of God, or St. Peter, or whoever you imagine as the final decision maker, who hears out the character's life story and arguments for being a good person, but then brutally picks apart each one before ultimately deciding to send him to hell, which is fittingly followed by the Damnation interlude, before plunging into the explosive track Hellfire at the back end of the project. Hellfire is definitely one of the honorable mentions I want to recommend on this thing, and I think for the others I'm gonna have to go with Since When, Nothing to Give, Hourglass, Beautiful Girl, What'll You Do, America Loves Gangstas, and The Light. When it comes down to my top 3 favorite overall tracks, I would have to go with Never Know Why, Caved In, and The Gates. Thank you for watching my 201st video. Next time, we're going to delve into another culture changer when it comes to mid-2000s hip-hop. So look for that one, and if you enjoyed, be sure to like, subscribe, and let me know what your favorite moments off this southern landmark happen to be. Don't forget to have a great day, and I'll see you next time, alright? Okay.
Look, the key to my soul is locked in the cage it opens. The framework was made from my own rib cue. What came first, the crack or the crack lighter? Whichever one the first fiend used to bring back.